Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Rebel against the kings of Babylon. Rebel.
Hey everyone, it's Ivan with KeepAgile.com, out here for another gear review. Today, talking targets. This one right here, which is the Mini A-DAP by Targets. Taking a step back, a little bit of backstory. I ended up actually meeting the owners of Targets, Tactical AR500 Targets. And we were at NRA annual meeting, ended up meeting up with the guys. Whenever you talk to someone about their product, it's not to say everyone's selling snake oil, but when someone's talking about their product, usually pretty passionate about it, and they're like, hey, this is the best thing going. And okay, maybe it is, I don't know. But was talking with these guys, and something that actually stuck out to me was them talking about how their targets are made of AR550, which we'll get to in a second. But more importantly, the fact that they actually tested the steel that came in from this one batch. It wasn't 550, turned around, sent it back. Why is that important? Well, first we'll talk about steel. AR, whatever, fill in the blank. I believe it stands for abrasion resistance. And so when you get really high, like AR500, you end up using it things for like blades on bulldozers or scoops, backhoes, like really tough stuff. And so you have AR different numbers, AR400 for example, usually cheaper, really you can only shoot pistol at it. You can find targets made of it. And then kind of the standard AR500. Good for rifle rounds, different distances, as well as pistol. And then you have stuff like AR550, which is in fact even harder. And the fact that they ended up testing steel and sending lots back, I was like, okay, I'm interested. So I have been using this as well as another one of the Mini A-DAP targets for quite a while now. So long that they now have a 2.0. Some little nuanced differences I'll touch on in a minute, but yeah, I'm putting in some time with it. As I mentioned, this is the Mini A-DAP. They offer 3 different sizes. So for scale, this is a full-size silhouette. They do offer these. They are going to be really big and heavy because that's a lot of steel. And then they have C-zone. So basically the head cuts out down C-zone of one of these targets. This right here being about 30% smaller than the actual C-zone of a full-size target, measuring about 8 inches by about 16 inches. But the real beauty is when we get to what's going on back here. This piece right here is the heart of the target system. The arm comes forward, you have this cross pin, and it allows this target to be placed and it allows movement. The 2.0 actually has a series of holes. So in turn, you can, depending on which hole you use, you can actually change the tilt angle that this starts at, kind of blading it more or less. This piece right here, you can bolt on. It is an accessory. It allows for this hostage swinger, which lifts out in the back, basically a notch here. So to put it in, drops down, and then allows it to swing back and forth as you hit it. This piece right here is huge as far as one, the angle and the amount of movement. Allows you to shoot this, and rather than have anything come back, everything gets deflected down, and because of the amount of movement that you have here, you can shoot it with much higher calibers than you otherwise could if it was something static. Also, a note on the steel, as I mentioned, AR550, they offer 3/8 inch. This is their 1/2 inch, which is rated for 30 yards with 5.56, 308, 50 yards, Magnum rifles, 100+ yards, and pistols, 10 yards. All of that is somewhat dependent on actual like bullet composition as well as muzzle velocity. Quick side note on steel, what hurts steel? Largely it's velocity. You can shoot steel core at steel and not damage it if it's far enough away. Not really best practice. Or for that matter, like some of your wolf stuff that basically just has like kind of a steel jacket, it doesn't matter. Velocity is more important, because conversely, you can end up with some like mil-spec ball out of like a 20-inch barrel, and you can punch holes through steel, like rated target steel, because the stuff's flying, it's moving really fast. And again, depending, there's little chips taken out where it hits it perfect on the edge, but this thing has taken a ton of abuse. There's definitely some pock marks, maybe shooting a little closer than that 30 yards. Not best practice, don't recommend it. But keep in mind, one, steel's a consumable, like eventually it will wear out. These things have been known to go like, I think they have one that still has like 150,000 rounds on it. Again, depends on distance, velocities, everything like that. But if and when you chew this up, grade 8 bolts, undo these carriage bolts, flip it around, you have a nice clean side on the back. One more thing before I speak to the actual target bases is I do appreciate how easy this stuff goes together. If you have this, you pretty much take it off like that, and as far as the rest of this, it lifts straight off, which makes it really easy rather than having to affix it with some sort of bolts or anything like that. It just drops down over a standard 2x4. And depending on what you're looking for, because sometimes things happen, could have been me, could have been someone else I was shooting with, but they actually make a metal upright that'll take way more abuse. I mention it because I was at the Tactical Games, I think Florida 2019, and I don't remember the targets they were using, but they had wood 2x4s. And middle of the stage, I think on the second day, shooting my target, and the thing came apart, broke in half because of all the spalling that it had taken. So if you're gonna do something really high rate of fire, especially a competition where it's a competition, you don't want to have to stop and try and fix your target in the middle of it, might be worthwhile getting one of those metal uprights. As far as the bases go, they offer two different ones. This one right here is about 20 inches, and it has a spot, obviously, for your 2x4 upright. And then if you are going to end up shooting paper, it has these spots for 1x2. And then we have this right here, which is their arachnid base. I will show you how it goes together and how it works. If space is a consideration, these are nice because it is a real small footprint as far as the target, but does require assembly. So first, there's some cotter pins, take those out and put together.
1, 2, 3.
Right here, this is now assembled. These legs, obviously they're spiked, they can drive down in the dirt. Right here we can put our 2x4 upright, we can tighten it. There is another clamp on this side, and then these pieces, depending if you're going to shoot paper, they go in and out, and they will hold your 1x2s. So you can set this up fully right now. Bases work exactly the same, depending on what we want to do. We can either set them up to shoot steel, drop our 2x4 in, that guy on there, get our hostage plate on, and then if we want to shoot paper, throw that guy in there, and of course we can put these uprights in there or 2x4 over here. They both work exactly the same. One is a lot more compact. As you saw, didn't take forever to set it up, but I would rather have this. Personally, my experience. It's one of those for me where when it comes to going to the range, I've never been like, oh man, I had enough time at the range. No, like there's never enough time. And so the ability to pick this up, throw it down, throw my targets on there and start shooting, that's huge, rather than the assembly and disassembly. Again, personal preference. If you have a little tiny car, don't want to throw that around in the back of it, or I don't know, confined with respect to space, definitely the best option. Both of these, I will say, are stable. This, in my experience, more stable. Bases honestly make or break target systems for me personally. Again, going back to time, like this is fun, also my job. It's work, which is fun, but I value my time, especially at work. And so for the wind to be blowing this and end up blowing over like a crappy target stand, that's taking my time from me. Unacceptable. Both of these will do really good. I've also put them up numerous times. Snow, ice, stuff like that. You can smash these down into it. This one, with how wide the base is, I've never had issues, even if it's uneven like ice, just throwing it down. Does a good job. Also, when you set your targets up, maybe it needs to be mentioned, maybe not, but if you're shooting steel, you want that 2x4 back so that when you hang your target, like such, it is forward. So what we don't want is this reversed. It probably could fall over that way. I don't know. I haven't done it because that's not how you're supposed to do it. Having said all that, have I used them? Yes, I have used them a lot over the past probably like year or two at this point. Between myself, my friends, my boys, as well as taking these to some different classes, allowing lots of people to shoot lots of rounds on them, they continue to perform. As I mentioned, size-wise, this being the Mini A-DAP versus the C-Zone or the even larger full silhouette, I like this. It lends itself to the shooting I do in that at 50 yards, full silhouette would be huge. Even a BC, or yeah, even a C-Zone would be really big at 50 yards. These are nice. And then you can obviously use them further out and smaller point of aim. But also at 10 yards, I would much rather spend time shooting at this than a full-size silhouette or even a BC zone, like when you think working pistol. And obviously push these out to 50 with your pistol and it gets hard, but it's good. And the addition of the hostage swinger is nice also. So even if you do have a full-size silhouette and maybe you're shooting pistol, you can throw a hostage swinger on there and now you have a much smaller point of aim, which is good. And steel is just fun. It's reactive. Like, it's gratifying hearing those impacts. And this stuff sounds good. You can hear it at a distance. I will say steel is good for speed and stuff like that. And depending, if you use something small, it can also be good for accuracy, especially depending on that distance. But these bases also work with paper. Throw your uprights in there and you can actually work like true accuracy, which is really nice too. I usually bring these things out. I will set up my paper. If I'm zeroing something, go ahead, get close using a 10-yard zero, push this thing back, shooting paper, push back to 50, confirm it, throw in some steel. Again, pull a 2x4 out or pull uprights out, super easy, and the bases are amazing. They do not fall over, which I can't emphasize enough how much I hate crappy target bases. If you're in the market for some steel targets, I would encourage you to check out what they have. Their Mini A-DAP starts at about $200 to include the base, this whole top portion, and then of course you can add on different things, whether you want it actually 1/2 inch 550 or you want the hostage swinger, metal upright, depending on what you're doing, as well as the different bases. Personally, that bomb-proof 20-inch round base, it's my favorite. Zero setup. Thing will not blow over, in my experience. Doesn't fall over, uneven ground, any of that stuff. But if you end up picking some up, let me know how they do for you. And as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.